Good day everyone, I am Makig-angay, a business and social studies student. And for today, I will be discussing the constitutional framework of the following countries, namely Cuba, Bahamas, Nicaragua, and Guatemala. Cuba. Cuba's capital is Havana. It is the main chief seaport of Cuba in western part of the island. When we say main chief seaport, it is where the export and import from neighboring countries will be landed there. Transactions from neighboring countries will also be conducted there. Then, their government. The government of Cuba is a totalitarian government. Cuba is a socialist country with a powerful government that controls Cuba's life. Means that totalitarian government is under the control. That all of the Cubans will follow only what was or what is written to their constitution or the governments allow them to do or not them to do. Beyond that will be punishable by law. So, during 1959 to 2008, the leader or the president of Cuba is Fidel Castro. Let us know more about who is Fidel. Fidel Castro did a lot of things during his term. First is elimination of the press. He removed all the press outside from the government. He also ensures that televisions, newspapers, and radio broadcasting networks are owned by the state. In that way, only the ideologies of government is the only information that Cubans receive, as they will be informed what is happening towards their country. The second thing that Fidel Castro did during his term is that jailing of dissidents. All of the human rights activists, independent journalists, and other people or other opposition groups from the government that encourage for political change will be arrested and punished by harmful punishment, not just purely imprisonment, but also with a punishment. During this time, it's certainly subjected to anti-barbarity detention, unfair trials, and harsh prison sentences. One well-known example of this is that a group of 75 dissidents that has been arrested during Black Spring in 2003. Those people are caught attending or participating in pro-democratic activities. Many of them are sentenced for a long term, and some of them are almost died during the sentence. Fidel Castro also implemented the one-party state. It means that during early 1960s, Cuba has been ruled by only one political party, also known as the Communist Party of Cuba or PCC. The PCC controls all of the political activities such as elections, government appointments, and even the government or political decisions. Oppositions are not allowed to exist.
During Fidel Castro's term, he is not only doing bad things, but he also provided rural areas with electricity, offered free education and healthcare to all Cubans, and removed racism.
Due to Fidel Castro's strict and very stressful term or administration, he failed to complete his term. He was succeeded by his younger brother Raul Castro. Raul Castro, the younger brother of Fidel Castro, contributed a lot of things in Cuba. The leadership and support of Raul Castro emerged a significant figure in Cuban politics, garnering a strong backing from a top military known as Raulitas. His long tenure as a defense minister amplified his influence in Cuba. Next thing is the engagement with Soviet Union. Raul forged a robust ties with Soviet Union, seeking military support during 1962. The connections laid to the groundwork of Cuba's military and economic strategies. Contributed the biggest impact towards economic development of Cuba. During 1980s, Raul initiated economic reform in order for Cuba to cope up with the fall down of Soviet Union subsidies, which during that time Cuba really needed help to ensure their economic stability. But in result, Cuba not just stability for economic eras, but it improves their economic development. Another thing that you should know about the Cuban Communist Party or PCC is that during 1925, it was founded and became the only permitted party in Cuba under the 1976 Constitution. Then, 1965, the party went through various name changes and merges until it solidified the Communist Party of Cuba. So this is the final name of Communist Party or PCC, also known as the Communist Party of Cuba. Then, during 1992 Constitution, it was recognized as the leading force in the country. 1991, it was reaffirmed its single-party rule but allowed some economic reforms including foreign investment. So, the single-party rule was under by Fidel Castro, and the economic reforms is under by his brother Raul Castro. Then, 1997 officially dropped the requirements for party members to be atheists. That is all about the Cuban Communist Party or PCC, the one who unders the control of the entire politics activities in Cuba. The next stop is the Bahamas. Bahamas, British monarch is the formal head of the state and is represented by Governor General. House members are elected through universal adult suffrage. Meanwhile, the governor is appointed by the Senate members and must have terms in 5 years. The Prime Minister in Bahamas is appointed by the Governor General. He is the head of the government and also must have most of the support from the House. The political process of Bahamas. Citizens of Bahamas ages 18 and above are eligible to vote. Historically, the Bahamian women were not politically active until 1950s, but gained the right to vote during 1962. Dorothy Patricio Sweating was the first female member of the parliament in Bahamas, representing the Progress Liberal Party or PLP in the South Beach constituency. Sweating's elections mark a significant milestone in Bahamian politics, as she is the first woman who holds a seat in the parliament.
We are now bound to Nicaragua. Nicaragua is bounded by the Honduras to the north, Caribbean Sea to the east, Costa Rica to the south, and the Pacific Ocean to the west. Managua is the capital city of Nicaragua, a country in Central America. It is the largest city of Nicaragua. It lies on Lake Managua. Managua experienced two major earthquakes during 20th century that destroyed many historic buildings. Because of these earthquakes, the city has no true city center and it's quite spread out. Nicaragua had 9 sets of rules for how they should run the country during 1838 and 1979. The Somoza family ruled with a lot of power until a group led by Sandinistas kicked them out during 1979. These new leaders rid off all the old rules and set new ones. During 1985, people voted for a president and a group called the National Assembly to make decisions. They made a new sets of rules in 1987. Since then, there have been some changes of these rules during 1995, 2000, and 2005. The president chosen by the people and can stay in power for 5 years. The people who make the rules in the new assembly also stay for 5 years. The government's power is divided into 4 parts. The people who make decision are the executive, the people who make laws are the legislative, and the people who decide if laws are fair or not, the judicial, and the people who make sure elections are fair, or the electoral. The last group of electoral council in charge on making elections done properly. Let's go on to the local government of Nicaragua. Nicaragua's administrative structures comprises of the regiones, departamentos, and municipios, are regions, departments, and municipalities, situated with the latter. Municipal councils elected by citizens, hold governing authority, and appoints mayor. This council oversees various aspects including urban development, land use, sanitations, road construction, park maintenance, and cultural institutions within their respective municipality. Additionally, the country hosts two autonomous indigenous regions along the Caribbean coast, which is the North Atlantic Autonomous Region and the South Atlantic Autonomous Region, with Puerto Cabellas or Balwi and Bluefields serving as their respective capitals. The justice system of Nicaragua. Nicaragua's judicial system encompasses both civilian and military courts, the Supreme Court serving as the apex authority. Justices appointed by the National Assembly to 7-year terms nominate judges from lower courts. Despite international aid of judicial reform, the system grapples with issues like erratic judgments, trial postponements, and politicization. Political process in Nicaragua. Nicaraguans at the age of 16 are allowed to participate in the country's political processes. Historically, Nicaraguan politics has been dominated by the liberal conservative parties, namely the Constitutionalist Liberal Party or PLC and the Conservative Party of Nicaragua or PCN. The Sandinista National Liberation Front or FSLN has been significant player since its established in the early 1960s. Initially guerrilla group, SLN aimed to overthrow the Somoza family regime. SLN has governed Nicaragua twice from 1979 to 1990 and again from 2006 following the election victory of Sandinista leader Daniel Ortega. Presidential candidates must secure 40% of the vote to obtain 35% of the vote with a lead of at least 5 percentage points to the closest contender to avoid runoff election. Members of the National Assembly are elected through a proportional representation system for a 5-year terms that can be re-elected. Notably, 2 seats in the Assembly are reserved, one for the immediate past president and another one for the runner-up of the most recent presidential election. Lastly is the security in Nicaragua. Nicaragua has a volunteer army, Navy, and Air Force. Nicaraguans can enlist at the age of 17. Nicaragua's army, historically tied with political parties, during Sandinista rule, the National Guard, linked to Somoza family, was replaced with Sandinista's People's Army, which had led to a revolution. In 1995, an amendment with Constitution helped stabilize and democratize the army, which was renamed the Army of Nicaragua. We are now on to our last country, Guatemala. Guatemala City is the capital of Guatemala. It is the largest city in Central America, and it is also the political, cultural, social, and economic center of Guatemala. Guatemala City was founded in 1776 to replace the Antigua Guatemala, which virtually destroyed by the earthquake in 1773 as the capital of Captaincy General of Guatemala. The Constitution was adopted in 1986 as defined the Sovereign Democratic Republic. It divides among 3 governmental branches, which is legislative, executive, and judicial. Legislative power is delegated to unicameral Congress, whose members are elected for 5-year terms through direct popular suffrage. Executive power also is vested in the president, who is both the head of the government and the head of state. The vice president, both of whom are also elected for 5-year term by popular suffrage. Sovereign means one possessing or held to possess supreme political power and exercises supreme authority within a limited sphere. It also acknowledges arbiter as a leader. The local government of Guatemala. Guatemala is divided into departamentos or departments, each overseen by a governor appointed by the president. Within these departments, there exist municipios or municipalities, each governed by the council. The councils are led by the mayors, who are directly elected by popular vote. Justice system of Guatemala. The Supreme Court comprises at least 9 justices who hold jurisdiction over all tribunals within the country. Justices of Supreme Court are elected by Congress. They serve terms lasting for 4 years. Political process of Guatemala. In Guatemala, voting is mandatory at the age of 18 years and above, but enforcement is lacking. Only authorized parties can nominate candidates in top positions. Women's political participation grew after 1996 peace accords and organized group emerging. Political party landscape is fluid, some parties showing continuity while others emerge. However, trust in the government remain low due to security issues and high crime rates.